Well, it looks like one of the greatest fighters of all time when it comes to mixed martial arts, in most people's opinions, has a set return date. It looks like they're targeting UFC 285 in March for the return of the former reigning defending light heavyweight champion, now moving up to heavyweight as he sets his eye on gold in another weight class, and who many people believe to be the greatest pound-for-pound mixed martial artist of all time in Jon Bones Jones. Now, I have my own opinions on Jones, and I'm not going to be one to mix words or say anything just so I could get a few people to click the like button and maybe hit the subscribe button. If there's one thing I'm going to be, it's real, and that's what I'm going to say with my opinion on Jones. I respect his skills. I think his ability to use his reach, distance control, his variety of striking technique, and the grappling ability that he has, paired with the jiu-jitsu, is a skill set of one of the greatest mixed martial artists on earth. I will not disagree with you there. He is one of the best fighters in terms of technique and skill that have ever graced the game of mixed martial arts. But Jones and his personal choices, and the fact that he has failed multiple drug tests and made some other choices which probably weren't the smartest, but you can go on Google and find those out for yourself. Based on that fact, I don't necessarily respect him. Like I said, I respect his skills, but respecting him as a person and the decisions that he makes, especially when it comes to being a professional athlete, it's just really not there for me. But again, skill-wise, one of the greatest mixed martial artists on planet Earth. But it looks like he's going to be going up to heavyweight to battle the heavyweight champion of the world in Francis the Predator Ngannou. Now, Ngannou versus Jones is a fight that people have talked about for years, and it's one that I think everybody wants to see. Whether you're a Jon Jones lover or a Jon Jones hater, I think Ngannou versus Jones is that David versus Goliath, that, the unstoppable force meeting the immovable object. It is like the true definition of a heavyweight super fight. It is the definition of a super fight in mixed martial arts. Can Jones use his reach, his distance control, his kicks, those oblique kicks, the side kicks to the knee, the elbows inside the clinch like he used against Glover Teixeira, to dictate the fight from start to finish and dismantle Francis Ngannou? Or will Ngannou be able to use that raw power that he possesses and knock Jon Jones' head into orbit and knock it into the last row of the MGM Grand or the T-Mobile Arena if this fight was to take place in Las Vegas? There's a ton of questions when it comes to Jones moving up to heavyweight. We've seen pictures on his Instagram, on any of his social media, that he's really taken this move up to heavyweight seriously. He's probably put on around 20 to 30 pounds, and probably 15 to 20 of that, maybe 15 pounds of muscle. He's big, he's bulky, he looks like a heavyweight. But will that speed, power, and technique that he had at light heavyweight transition into a new weight class when you have to carry around this much more weight and muscle, which his body isn't used to? Now, he's taken the allotted time and probably the appropriate amount of time in order to get his body accustomed to moving around with that extra weight, but we won't really know how much it affects him until he steps into the octagon. We've seen how much it affects people when they drop down to a lower weight class, and normally it doesn't work out too well for them. But when people move up in weight class, they do tend to have some more success. But moving up to heavyweight against probably the strongest combat sports athlete to ever grace planet Earth, it's a different story all in its own. And, I only think it'll take one shot from Ngannou to knock Jon Jones out cold. Regardless if he's never lost inside the UFC, Ngannou's a different beast. Now, originally, we thought we were going to get Jon Jones versus Stipe Miocic sometime in September or October, and that obviously just never came to fruition, but the whole time we believed it was because Bones wasn't ready to step back in the octagon just yet, or maybe the contract terms weren't exactly to his liking. But we've come to know that Jones has been ready to step in the octagon for months now, and it was Miocic who was holding up the contractual disagreements and holding up the fight actually being made. But Miocic seems to have been taken out of the equation, at least for the foreseeable future, and it looks like it's going to be Ngannou versus Jones. However, if Ngannou hasn't recovered fully from his knee surgery following his UFC 270 title defense against Cyril Bongamin, then it looks like they're going to get another heavyweight contender to step in to face Jones at 285. And that's none other than Curtis Razor Blades. Now, if we're going to compare Blades and Ngannou, I think that Blades is a much more favorable matchup for Jon Jones. The height, the reach, the distance control, Blades has power, but it's not near the level of an Ngannou, and I think that Jones would just have a much easier time battling a Curtis Blades if that was to be his heavyweight debut. And if it was going to be his debut, it would more than likely be for an interim heavyweight championship. But the fight that we all want to see is obviously Jon Jones versus Francis Ngannou, and they will do anything they possibly can to make sure that that is the fight we get for UFC 285. I think Blades is a good fight, and I will definitely be interested in seeing how it plays out, but I don't necessarily see Blades being able to out-wrestle Jones. I know it's going to be up at a different weight class, but I still think Jones wrestling will be able to stifle Curtis Blades, and I also just think the reach, the distance control, and the variety of striking techniques that Jones throws and mixing it together in that beautiful mosaic of mixed martial arts game with the clinch game and the grappling is just way too much for a Curtis Blades. But Ngannou's a different story, and we've already touched on the reasons why. The last time we saw Jon Jones was prior to the COVID era at UFC 247 in his title defense against Dominic the Devastator Reyes. Now, we've seen how Dominic Reyes' career has gone after that questionable loss to Jones, and he's gone 0-3 if you're counting the Jones loss, 0-4 since that title fight. And he lost to Jones via a very close razor-thin decision, lost to Blachowicz and when they were crowning a new UFC light heavyweight champion at UFC 253, lost to Yuri Prohaska at a UFC Fight Night via vicious knockout, and then just most recently lost at UFC 281 in the first round with a vicious knockout basically via a jab to Ryan Superman Spann. It seems as though Reyes' time atop the light heavyweight division in the UFC has passed him by. And that just goes to question how Jones would do in a new weight class, but against this new crop of MMA talent. I know light heavyweight and heavyweight is a different story, but even prior to that Dominic Reyes fight where he got that razor-thin decision, and most people believe he lost to Reyes, he had a very close fight with Thiago Magenta Santos. And Santos hasn't done well at all since the Jon Jones fight either. And even during the fight with Jones, where he was able to go to a very competitive decision and many people believed he may have been able to get the nod, he tore his ACL, MCL, LCL, basically ripped both of his knees completely apart and still was able to compete with Jones. And this begs the question of how much of Jones' success early in his career was due to performance-enhancing drugs. I know he didn't pop for any type of PEDs until later in his career before he served those suspensions, but was it that he didn't take them, or was it that he just never got caught? And whether it was tainted supplements, etc., or gas station dick pills, which I will say, who knows what it was, but it really begs the question of how good is Jon Jones actually? Now, I've already touched on his skills and praised him for the skill that he possesses in terms of the mixed martial arts game. But I think that this heavyweight move, in all honesty, is not going to go well for Jones. I think the best first fight he could have in terms of a stylistic matchup would be Curtis Blades. But I think he loses to Miocic. I think he gets knocked out by Francis Ngannou. And I also think he loses to Cyril Gane, even if it goes the technical route. I really am intrigued to see what Jones looks like coming back after 3 years off from the game. And I think a lot of fans, casual or hardcore, are all begging the same question. Will the greatness that Jones showed prior to these suspensions and this long layoff still be there? Or will the new version of Bones be exactly that? A skeleton of his past self. Thank you for watching. Please don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. Land an oblique kick on the like button, and maybe an old-fashioned eye poke on the subscribe button. But if you really want to get to work, land a good old 12 to 6 elbow on that notification bell so you don't miss any of the uploads from the premier mixed martial arts channel on YouTube. Thank you, and have a blessed day.